Hello friends and lovers, it's Haelian, and today I got two topics I wanted to discuss for this quick video here. Number one is 1.0. When's it coming, we think, what you can expect, where is it coming in terms of consoles and things like that, because there's actually a little bit of misinformation that's been spreading there. And number two is going to be Steam achievements, because they did actually get leaked on Steam itself. All players got to see them at one point in August last month even. So there's actually a lot of things for us to talk about that I haven't really consolidated into one video, so I'm hoping to do that for you here. Now, I should warn you that this is mostly speculation. We don't have a lot of facts. Supergiant has not said when Hades 2 is coming out at all. You know, they haven't given us any sort of release window or release date, you know, so we're kind of just using the history of their previous games and how they released them, namely Hades 1, right? And how the flow of other updates have happened, because they said they have completed the last major update for Hades 2, so version 1.0 should be essentially around the corner. And same thing with the Steam achievements. We're kind of just dissecting what we do have here and just kind of guessing and just having some fun with it, you know? Maybe we can just kind of come up with some fun stuff or fun ideas what some of these words could mean. And there is some juicy information behind the achievements in particular, which we'll get to. So let's talk about what we do know and what we do not know about 1.0. So firstly, we do know what 1.0 is coming to. It is coming to PC, Switch 1, and Switch 2. So when 1.0 of Hades 2 lands, it will launch on those three platforms. There's been a lot of misinformation or misguided information perhaps that think that it's going to be exclusive to the Switch 2 for some reason, or exclusive to the Switches. They're not going to rip it off the Steam store just so it can only be on the Switch, I can assure you of that. But it is correct that it will not be coming to any other consoles at 1.0 as far as we know. And we do not know if they're necessarily porting it to the other consoles, but I think it's safe to say that they will eventually be bringing them there. We just don't know when that's going to happen. Some gaming journalism websites have used the term exclusivity when describing Hades 2 coming to the Switches, but I don't think that's really accurate. To me, it just seems like this is Supergiant focusing on the platforms that they deem most important, you know, so they're going to bring it, of course, to PC because it's already in early access on PC, and they're bringing it to the Switch because, I don't know, they're still a small studio that probably can't just port the game to every single thing immediately, and they just need more time potentially. There's also just no actual evidence of the exclusivity per se, you know, and I don't think Nintendo is really in the mode of paying small indie studios large sums of money to keep the game off of other consoles, but also allow it on Steam, you know, it just seems kind of weird. Plus, this is how it worked in Hades 1. Hades 1 launched into 1.0 in September of 2020 on PC and the Switch. They prioritized the Switch because they just felt like it was a good fit for the game, so they're probably doing the same thing there. It did take about a full year to come to PlayStation and Xbox after that. So whether or not we have to wait that long, I don't really know. If I were to guess, Supergiant has kind of learned the lesson to kind of bring it to the other consoles a little sooner for all the players, but I guess we just don't really know. So let's talk about a 1.0 release date for Hades 2 now, and while, again, we don't have a lot of actual information on when this is going to happen, we do have some history to go over in terms of Hades 1. So in Hades 1, the last major update during early access came out in June of 2020, and then the game launched into 1.0 in September of 2020, just a few months later. So it wouldn't be outlandish to expect Hades 2 to come out, you know, anytime this month or two next, you know, because we've already been 3 months since the last major update for Hades 2 now. And as far as we can tell, yes, the Unseen update was the last major update in Hades 2 before 1.0. They said all over the development blog and everywhere that this was going to be the last major update and that they're basically working on the true ending and some finishing touches for Hades 2. Now, Hades 2 is a much bigger game than Hades 1. There's just a lot more going on there. There's more gods, there's more boons, there's more areas, there's more everything. So it is very, very possible that this is going to take a little bit longer than Hades 1 did. And while I hate throwing out dates like this, I know a lot of you are just curious when I think this game is going to come out. All I would say is that I would be shocked if this game is not out in 1.0 by the end of November of this year. In terms of the other consoles, PlayStation and Xbox, I would be surprised if it takes them a full year like it did in Hades 1. I would like to think that they're going to be able to get it earlier, but I doubt they would at least be any later than a year after the 1.0 release date. I should warn you right now that the rest of this video is going to be completely chock full of spoilers, so if you're trying to avoid spoiling the game, you should really just turn it off right now. So what do we think will be added to Hades 2 for version 1.0? Well, the development blog kind of has us covered here, and the major thing is just this story. You know, the true ending, we're going to get the entire ending, really, because we don't really have much of any sort of ending provided in the game right now, so there's definitely going to be a ton of story added. for 1.0, there's no doubt about it. The development blog also mentions achievements, which we still have to go over, finishing touches, and that's kind of it. And that's not really surprising because Hades 1 didn't get a ton of actual content added to it leading into 1.0, was mostly just finishing up what was already there in terms of the story and just some overall polishing. So no, I wouldn't expect new weapons, new gods, or a ton of new boons or anything like that, but you can definitely expect some balance changes and a lot of polishing, maybe even some reworks to some aspects and boons of that nature. And for all you copers out there, no, I really don't think Zagreus is going to suddenly become a playable character 1.0, but here's hoping just for you. Alright, that pretty much wraps up what we know about 1.0, which I know isn't much, but so many people are curious about it and I get asked so often. I feel like I just want to give that information in the most consolidated format that we can, but now let's talk about the achievements here. So they did get leaked in August, but I don't think leaked is really the right word because they just accidentally published the achievements on Steam, honestly. That's what happened. So if you looked at Hades 2 in your game library, you could see all of the achievements right there for just like about a day. Now, I forgot to get screenshots myself, but I found a thread on the subreddit that has screenshots and has a discussion about it. I'll have a link in the description if you want to check out those discussions for yourself. But why don't we just kind of talk about what we have here? And a lot of them aren't very interesting at first, I'll admit. So we got some really expected stuff here, like fulfill some prophecies, fully upgrade your arcana, recruit all your animal familiars. But the next page has some more interesting things. They got some kind of particular challenges in mind here, like use Nightbloom to raise a siren. Nightbloom is a hex that brings an enemy back from the dead after you defeat them, and they're talking about the Skilla fight. You can raise one of her sirens after killing them and use them to fight Skilla, basically. So it's just kind of like a funny little unlock or, I don't know, challenge that you can give yourselves. And speaking of challenges, Dress to Kill, reach the final confrontation in an Arachne outfit, which means you have to get an outfit from Arachne and conserve that armor for the entire run, which is actually quite challenging. So I think that is honestly a pretty fun challenge to give the players here. But here's where things get the most interesting, which is the bottom achievement here. Elysian Glory, prevail in the contest of champions. This achievement is absolutely fascinating. I have no idea what it means, truth be told. There are no references to any sort of contest of champions anywhere in the game besides that. Also, they bring up Elysium, which is kind of interesting in its own way, perhaps, in the title there. So what does this mean? Well, the truth is, we don't really know. We don't really have any sort of idea. It doesn't seem to be a reference to the Chaos Trials or anything like that, unless it is one particular Chaos Trial that hasn't been published yet. That is very possible. Or it could be a whole nother game mode, perhaps, you know what I mean? Like a lot of roguelikes have daily runs or challenge runs, sort of, that kind of reset every so often. And then, you know, players can kind of compete in leaderboards in terms of like time or score or something like that. And so using the term contest, you know, of champions, I guess you could say, makes me think of somehow pitting players against each other, or at least that's sort of what I'm hoping for. All right, get your conspiracy theory hats on for this one, because there is something in the game which is a little quirky right now, which is that in Circe's chamber, you can actually interact with the door to her hut in the background. She just tells you it's a mess and you can't go in there. It does make you think it could lead to something else. It immediately brings up thoughts of the secret Charon fight. I guess, although not much of a secret, the Charon fight in Hades 1 when you stole his sack of gold, right? Maybe there's going to be something within Circe's hut, and maybe that is linked to this achievement. Maybe when you go in there, you have to fight her or some things, and they consider that the contest of champions, maybe. While I definitely would love that, and I'm kind of half expecting that to happen anyway, I'm kind of hoping this achievement is actually linking to something a little bit bigger than that for me personally. I just want more ways to play the game, so any sort of other game modes or challenges that they can provide us, I would absolutely love to tackle. Again, we don't really know what it means. There's no actual hardcore information beyond what you actually see here, but there's definitely a lot of fun to really think about what it could be. And after that, we kind of just got some basic stuff going on here, like fulfilling a bunch of prophecies for the last page of the achievements. So I'm afraid that's kind of, you know, everything else is kind of nothing burger compared to the Elysian Glory achievement here. But I'm really curious what your thoughts are on it, so let me know what you think it could be, what you want it to be, and what you're kind of hoping for. Lastly, we haven't seen or heard anything about a possible Hell mode for Hades 2. So in case you don't know, Hades 1 had a sort of harder game mode called Hell Mode, where you could start a save file and the game would give you extra heat. And while I have some strong thoughts on how Hell Mode worked and was implemented in Hades 1, I'd be quite surprised if they completely left it out without at least talking about it, I think, from the devs. So if they do decide to leave it out, I definitely want to ask them what their thoughts are on it. And if they do decide to bring it in, well, I guess it'll just have to be a surprise what it'll be exactly. All right, that's all I got. And I know there wasn't a lot of precise information out there, but hopefully I was helpful for the people that were curious about some of this stuff, or at least spark some fun conversations. If you want to see more stuff around Hades 2 and other roguelikes, make sure you like, comment, subscribe. You know what we ask for here. Thank you so much for watching, though, and I shall see you in another video.